Hello all, Antonio Tambornino here with my review of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. With The Force Awakens, J J Abrams gives us a very fun, exciting intro to what I hope will be a new, powerful story in the Star Wars mythos, in which I think Lucasfilm has decided to focus on their latest creation, Kylo Ren, who is desperate and eager to acquire clues that will lead him to Luke Skywalker. This builds good tension and makes for a fun, new cinematic tale. But I feel what Abrams did with his writers, Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci, for Star Trek, which was released back in 2009, he was unable to do with The Force Awakens. In The Force Awakens, he has introduced us to Finn, played by John Boyega of Attack the Block, Rey, played by Daisy Ridley, and Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac. When I saw Star Trek, I was delighted by what I saw, and it wasn't long before it was my new favorite movie. To this day, I consider Star Trek one of Abrams' best films yet, and that's in large part to how he masterfully handled the first 10 minutes. Emotional, tragic, powerful, and yet also dramatic and fun. A sci-fi cinematic masterpiece, and it did not upstage the rest of the film. Super 8 was the movie in which J J Abrams got his Spielberg on. A cool kind of version of The Goonies meets E.T., while still delivering the heart and thrills you'd expect from someone who co-created and made Lost. Even with the soap opera acting, it's still fun to see the chemistry these actors have between one another, as is displayed with the level of exchange that they show as the movie progresses. There are those who are aware and those who are not of just how badly the prequels did. And unfortunately, that is in large part due to George Lucas's decision to focus on style rather than on substance. And even more unfortunate that he should have chosen to go that angle while making the prequels. It was such a bad decision that it left a very bad taste in the mouth of many a Star Wars fan. So much so that we still have yet to recover from it, even with a movie as fun as the Star Wars The Force Awakens. What is really nice and enjoyable about The Force Awakens is how good it was and how it leaves us hungry for more. Watching Poe Dameron give BB-8 a piece of a puzzle to Luke's whereabouts wasn't as fun or as mysterious as Princess Leia giving a top-secret message for Obi-Wan to R2-D2. While some may see this as an unfair criticism, the build-up in the first 10 minutes of Star Trek is the kind of suspense one expects in a sci-fi cinematic tale, particularly one that is really an origin story to what is now being considered a reboot film. It might be an unfair criticism, but BB-8 being handled a puzzle piece just seems kind of cliche, and it screams to viewers, this is what leads us to Luke Skywalker. BB-8, while still adorable in its own right, doesn't quite have the same emotional complexity as R2-D2 does, which might seem like a funny criticism to make, but part of the magic of Star Wars was how two droids were given enough characterization to get a classic started. Somehow, Poe Dameron being shown so early in the film robbed BB-8 of that level of humanity. What's wrong with that, you may well ask? Kylo Ren is supposed to be a tortured soul, or at least that's what we're meant to believe, and yet playing him is Adam Driver, who simply looks too pretty for someone who is suffering from whatever kind of hold Lord Snoke has on him. It's as if he's wearing a mask for the fun of it, not necessarily because he has to. I was also surprised by the amount of soap opera acting, something I often forgot about growing up watching the first 6 Star Wars films, is that Star Wars, while written as a drama, was always a soap opera, something that The Force Awakens embraces more than the prequels did. The Force Awakens embraces a lot of things that make it a fun, enjoyable ride and definitely worth seeing on any big screen, no matter the format. Harrison Ford still makes for a great Han Solo, and he's still a charming enough rogue of a character to keep watching and to keep quoting. Seeing Kylo Ren stop a laser blast mid-shot, well, while clearly digitally enhanced, is still a more tasteful decision on where to use the visual effects than to watch Yoda doing a lightsaber force battle. Merchandise advertisement, anyone? The chase scenes with the TIE fighters and the Millennium Falcon just above ground over Planet Jakku will make just about any fan of the chasings involving the Millennium Falcon and the TIE Fighters in The Empire Strikes Back giddy in their seat. What I wasn't expecting was how interesting and fun I felt it was to see a Star Destroyer in 3D on the IMAX screen as it maintains its position in orbit above the desert planet Jakku. There's something interesting and fun about watching Finn as he tries to get water to quench his thirst out in the middle of the desert, and just so happens to find water coming from an overflowing well from which a giant pig is also quenching its thirst. The same giant pig that nudges him aside when he tries to get any water to quench his thirst. And what is also interesting and fun about that scene is that when you eventually realize that that pig is real, in large part thanks to puppetry and JJ's and Lucasfilm's decision to adhere to more practical effects. What I would love to know is if shooting some of these props in staging boxes was how some of these scenes came together. It's fun to see Daisy Ridley as Rey, a young, bright, talented woman who has to scavenge for old parts from across a desert that is her home planet in order to acquire a meal, often dreaming of leaving the broken-down Imperial walker that she takes shelter in. Daisy Ridley demonstrates she can play a woman with such intelligence and skill set as the one she portrays. I give Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, 4 out of 5 stars. Because I feel if I don't, I will regret it later on. Because there's simply too much in this movie to not walk out of the theater feeling delighted. And it will be just as enjoyable on DVD and Blu-ray as it was in both standard format and in IMAX 3D. No joke. While I still feel a little disappointed with how underplayed the drama in this film was, I sincerely hope that the reason for that is because we'll be getting a darker chapter with Episode 8. After all, Disney is trying to get a return on that $4 billion investment. Thank you very much for your time, and have an awesome day.